Captain Daniel Wright stood on the bridge of the Earth defense ship Valiant and watched the holographic display in front of him. 40 massive warships from the Galactic Council surrounded Earth like predators circling wounded prey. Each ship belonged to a different alien species, and each one had weapons that could turn entire cities into ash. The weapons were powered up and ready to fire, but they had not locked onto any targets yet. Daniel knew that could change in seconds. He had been a military officer for 20 years, and he understood what a threat looked like. This was not a diplomatic visit. This was intimidation. Commander Lisa Morgan walked across the bridge toward him. Her face had lost its usual color, and her hands trembled slightly as she carried a data pad. She had been reviewing the message from the council for the third time, and it still made her feel sick. "Captain, they are sending the ultimatum again. They want our answer in 1 hour." Daniel took the data pad from her and read through the demands one more time. The council wanted humanity to surrender 70% of all military ships. They wanted every faster-than-light research facility shut down and dismantled. They wanted human colonies to stop expanding beyond current borders. They wanted oversight committees from council species placed in every major human government and military installation. The message was clear. Humanity would become a subject species, or humanity would face war. "What do you think they will do if we refuse?" Lisa asked quietly. Daniel looked at the alien fleet on the display. "They will attack. They are not here to negotiate. They are here to force us into submission. But we cannot win against that many ships," Lisa said. "Our entire fleet combined is smaller than what they brought here." "Winning is not always about having the biggest fleet," Daniel replied. "Sometimes it is about making the enemy pay too much for victory." He had studied Earth history extensively during his years at the military academy. He remembered reading about small nations that refused to surrender to larger powers. Some of those nations had been crushed. Others had made invasions so costly that the larger powers eventually gave up. The key was making the enemy believe that victory would cost more than it was worth. "Get me a secure line to Admiral Kyle Bennett at Earth Command," Daniel ordered, "and send a message to the council. Tell them we need 24 hours to consider their terms." Lisa looked shocked. "Sir, they specifically said 1 hour. If we delay, they might think we are refusing." "Good," Daniel said. "Let them think whatever they want." The communication took several minutes to establish. Admiral Bennett appeared on the holographic display looking tired and angry. He had been in meetings with government leaders for the past 6 hours, and none of those meetings had gone well. "Captain Wright, I assume you have read the council demands?" "Yes, sir," Daniel replied. "I told them we need 24 hours to respond." Bennett actually smiled at that. "They are not going to like that. President Carter is meeting with the cabinet right now. I think I already know what her answer will be." "We are not surrendering," Daniel said. It was not a question. "No, we are not," Bennett confirmed. "Humanity did not spend 200 years fighting to reach the stars just to hand over our freedom, because some aliens decided we are growing too fast. Prepare your ship for combat, Captain. When we send our real answer to the council, it will not be words." The transmission ended. Daniel turned to his crew and saw the fear in their eyes. They all knew what was coming. War against an enemy that outnumbered them, outgunned them, and had been traveling the stars for thousands of years, while humanity had barely left its own solar system. "All hands. This is the captain," Daniel said over the ship-wide communication system. "I will not lie to you. The Galactic Council has given us an ultimatum: surrender most of our fleet and our freedom, or face their combined military might. I want you all to know that our government will refuse their demands. We will fight. Many of us may not survive what comes next, but I would rather die free than live as a slave to species that think they can bully us into submission. Prepare for combat operations." On Earth, President Helen Carter sat in the Emergency Command Center deep beneath the North American continent. Around her sat the most powerful people in human government: military leaders, intelligence directors, diplomatic advisors, and cabinet members, all waited for her decision. The room was silent except for the hum of computer systems and life support. "Let me make sure I understand the situation correctly," President Carter said. "The Galactic Council has assembled the largest fleet ever seen in our solar system. They are demanding we give up most of our military, stop our expansion into space, and allow them to oversee our government. If we refuse, they will likely attack Earth directly." "That is correct, Madam President," said Secretary of Defense Paul Henderson. "Our intelligence suggests they are prepared to bombard our orbital facilities, and possibly even strike military targets on the surface. And our chances of winning a conventional war against them? Admiral Bennett answered honestly, almost zero. In a direct fleet engagement, we would lose quickly. Our ships are newer and in some ways more advanced, but they have the numbers. We estimate it would take less than a week for them to destroy our entire space fleet. President Carter nodded slowly. She had reviewed all the intelligence reports and military assessments. She knew the odds. She also knew that some things mattered more than odds. Gentlemen and ladies, I have a question for all of you. What happens if we surrender? The room remained quiet for a moment. Then Henderson spoke. They will slowly dismantle our ability to defend ourselves. Within a generation, we will be completely dependent on Council protection. They will control where we can go, what technology we can develop, and how we govern ourselves. Humanity will become a client species. And our children? Carter asked. What kind of future will they have? They will be subjects, Bennett said bluntly. Not citizens. Not masters of their own destiny. They will live under rules made by species that see us as dangerous children who need to be controlled. President Carter stood up and walked to the large display showing the Council fleet in orbit. 40 warships. Thousands of aliens who thought humanity would fold under pressure. She thought about her own grandchildren. About every child on Earth and the colonies. About all the future generations who would inherit whatever decision she made in the next few minutes. Send a message to all our ships, she said firmly. Tell them to prepare for protocol defiance. We will not surrender. We will not bargain. We will send the Council our answer, and that answer is no. The room erupted in activity as orders were transmitted across the solar system. Admiral Bennett authorized the activation of defense systems that had been built in secret over the past 5 years. Weapons that the Council knew nothing about. Tactics that no alien species had ever seen humans use. Captain Daniel Wright received the orders on the bridge of the Valiant. He read them twice to make sure he understood correctly. Then he gathered his senior officers. We have our orders, he told them. Earth Command has authorized protocol defiance. We are going to refuse the Council ultimatum, and we are going to show them that humanity does not surrender. What is protocol defiance? Asked Lieutenant Chris Palmer from the tactical station. It means we stop fighting like they expect us to fight, Daniel explained. The Council thinks this will be a war of fleets meeting in space for honorable battle. They are wrong. This is going to be a war of survival, and we are going to use every dirty trick we know. He pulled up a tactical display showing Earth orbit. For the past 6 hours while the Council waited for our response, our automated systems have been deploying thousands of small devices throughout Earth orbital space. Each one looks like debris, like old satellite parts or space junk. The Council sensors barely registered them. Lisa Morgan understood immediately. Kinetic mines. Exactly, Daniel confirmed. When the Council moves in to take our orbital stations, they are going to fly right into a minefield. Each mine is small but moving at orbital velocity. Enough of them hitting at once will tear their ships apart. And after that? Chris asked. Daniel smiled, but there was no humor in it. After that, we show them what humans do best. We adapt, we improvise, and we make them pay for every inch of space they try to take from us. The message was prepared carefully. Daniel recorded it himself, standing in front of the Valiant insignia. He kept his voice calm and professional, but every word carried weight. To the assembled representatives of the Galactic Council, humanity has reviewed your ultimatum. We reject it completely. We will not surrender our ships, our research, our colonies, or our freedom. We will not submit to oversight from species that came to our home with threats and warships. If you choose to enforce your demands through violence, you will discover that humanity is far more dangerous than you calculated. This is our final answer. We will not negotiate further. The transmission was sent on all frequencies. Every Council ship received it. Every alien commander heard the words. There was a long moment of silence across the communication channels. Then the Council fleet began powering their weapons to full strength. On the bridge of the Valiant, Daniel watched the tactical display as 40 enemy warships prepared to attack. All ships, this is the captain, he said calmly. Withdraw to defensive positions behind the moon. Execute on my mark. The human fleet began moving away from Earth, retreating as if in fear. The Council ships moved forward, sensing victory. They had no idea what was about to hit them. Counselor Thex stood on the command deck of his flagship and watched the human vessels retreat toward the moon. The Varine commander had fought in 17 campaigns across the galaxy, and he recognized surrender when he saw it. The humans were abandoning their orbital defenses and pulling back their warships. Their brave words meant nothing when faced with overwhelming force. "The human fleet is withdrawing to the far side of their moon," reported his tactical officer. "All major military vessels are leaving Earth orbit." Thex made a satisfied gesture with his upper appendages. He had expected more resistance from the species that had been causing so much concern among council members. Humans had expanded faster than any species in recorded history. They had colonized 30 systems in less than 2 centuries. They had developed faster than light technology independently without council guidance. Some council members feared that humanity would eventually challenge the established order. Thex had argued that humans were like all young species. Show them superior force and they would submit. "Maintain formation and advance," Thex ordered. "Prepare boarding teams to secure their orbital stations. We will take control of their defense grid and military production facilities. Once we control their infrastructure, they will have no choice but to accept our terms." The council fleet began moving forward in precise formation. 40 warships advancing together made an impressive sight. Ships from the Varine Empire, the Kelrath Collective, the Sorth Commonwealth, and 9 other species all working together to bring humanity under council authority. It should have been a moment of triumph for galactic unity. What none of them detected were the thousands of small objects drifting throughout Earth orbital space. Objects that looked exactly like debris and space junk that accumulated naturally around any inhabited planet. Old satellite fragments, spent rocket stages, broken solar panels, and metal scraps from construction projects. Human ships had been carefully positioning these objects for hours, while the council fleet focused on the warships themselves. Captain Daniel Wright watched from the bridge of the Valiant, now safely positioned behind the moon where council sensors could not track them. The bulk of Luna provided perfect cover, and the humans had relay satellites positioned to give them complete tactical awareness of everything happening in Earth orbit. Commander Lisa Morgan coordinated communications with the other human ships through tight beam transmissions that the council could not intercept. "All mines are active and online. The targeting AI has identified optimal attack vectors. We are ready to execute on your command." Daniel studied the tactical display showing the council fleet moving confidently toward Earth orbital facilities. They had no idea what was waiting for them. Every piece of apparent debris in Earth orbit was actually a kinetic mine equipped with basic thrusters and simple but effective targeting systems. The mines had been designed specifically for this scenario, small enough to avoid detection, numerous enough to overwhelm point defenses, and fast enough to deliver devastating kinetic impact. "Execute Aurora Protocol," Daniel ordered quietly. Throughout Earth orbital space, thousands of kinetic mines suddenly activated. Small thrusters fired in precise sequences calculated by the targeting AI. Each mine began accelerating toward specific targets in the council fleet. They came from every direction simultaneously, above and below, port and starboard, from in front and behind. There was no single attack vector to defend against. It was like being caught in a 3-dimensional swarm. The council ships detected the incoming threats exactly 4.7 seconds before the first impacts. Their point defense systems were excellent, designed to intercept missiles and energy weapon fire, but they had never been designed to handle thousands of small, fast-moving objects attacking from every possible angle at once. Thex saw the warnings flash across his tactical display and felt ice form in his blood. "Evasive maneuvers. All ships activate point defenses." But it was already too late. The first kinetic mine struck a Kelrath destroyer on its port side. The mine was only the size of a human basketball, but it was traveling at over 7 kilometers per second. The kinetic energy released on impact was equivalent to several tons of high explosive. The destroyer's shields flickered and collapsed. Hull plating tore apart. Atmosphere vented into space. Then the rest of the mines arrived. Hundreds of impacts across dozens of ships within seconds. A Varine cruiser shuddered as 3 mines punched through its forward shields and destroyed its main weapons array. A Sorth frigate simply disintegrated when 5 mines struck its reactor section simultaneously. Smaller council vessels broke apart like toys under the relentless kinetic assault. Thex gripped his command chair as his flagship rocked from multiple impacts. Alarms shrieked throughout the ship. Damage reports flooded the communication channels. "Return fire. Target the source of these weapons." "Sir, there is no centralized source," his tactical officer shouted over the chaos. The weapons are coming from everywhere. They seeded the entire orbital space with mines while we were watching their fleet withdraw. We flew right into a trap. The assault lasted 8 minutes. 8 minutes of sustained kinetic bombardment from thousands of mines that had been positioned perfectly throughout Earth orbit. When it finally ended, the Council fleet was devastated. 8 ships had been completely destroyed, their hulls torn apart and their crews dead. 15 more ships were severely damaged with hull breaches, disabled weapons, and failing systems. The remaining vessels had all taken at least some damage. All ships retreat, Thex ordered. Pull back beyond the range of their orbital defenses. The Council fleet broke formation and fled. Ships limped away from Earth as fast as their damaged engines could carry them. Some trailed debris in atmosphere. Others fired maneuvering thrusters erratically, as their navigation systems struggled with battle damage. It was not an organized tactical withdrawal, it was a rout. On Earth, Admiral Kyle Bennett watched the tactical feeds from the command center buried deep beneath the Swiss Alps. President Helen Carter stood beside him, her face showing grim satisfaction but no joy. She took no pleasure in the deaths that had just occurred, but she understood their necessity. Status report, Bennett requested. Council fleet is retreating beyond the orbit of our moon, reported Lieutenant Kevin Barnes from the tactical station. 8 enemy ships destroyed, 15 severely damaged, the rest showing various levels of damage. They are not in any condition to continue offensive operations. And our losses? Carter asked. We lost 3 automated satellites and 1 cargo transfer station that was already scheduled for decommissioning. No human casualties. No damage to any crewed facilities or ships. The numbers were almost unbelievable. A complete tactical victory with minimal losses. But Bennett knew this was just the opening move in a much longer game. They will be back. The Council has hundreds of member species and thousands of warships. This was just their first expedition. Next time they will come prepared for our tactics. President Carter walked to the large holographic display showing the retreating Council fleet. How long before they can mount another attack? Based on the damage we inflicted, at least 3 weeks before they can organize a new fleet. Probably longer because they will need time to analyze what happened and develop countermeasures for our mines. Then we have 3 weeks to prepare our next move, Carter said. What assets do we have available? Bennett pulled up a strategic map of human-controlled space. Our entire fleet is intact. We have mining operations throughout the asteroid belt, colonies on Mars and Europa, and forward bases in 6 nearby star systems. We also have those prototype ships that finished testing last month. The fast attack ships? Carter asked. Yes, Madam President. Smaller than standard cruisers, but 3 times faster, and equipped with the new missile systems. They are designed for hit-and-run tactics. Strike hard and be gone before the enemy can respond. Carter studied the map for several moments. The Council thinks this is going to be a conventional war. They expect us to defend Earth and our colonies while they gather more ships and slowly overwhelm us with numbers. We need to change that calculation. What are you suggesting? Bennett asked. They came to our home with threats and violence. I think it is time we took the fight to them. Show them that attacking humanity has consequences that extend far beyond Earth orbit. Bennett understood immediately. You want to go on the offensive. Strike at Council territory, not their military bases, Carter clarified. Hit their supply lines, their trade routes, their economic infrastructure. Make it clear that this war will cost them more than just ships. Make them understand that every day this conflict continues, they get weaker, while we adapt and survive. Admiral Bennett pulled up fleet deployment options. It will be risky. We will be operating deep in Council space without support or safe harbors. If any of our ships get trapped, they will be destroyed. I know, Carter said. But right now the Council thinks they can wear us down with superior numbers. We need to prove that numbers do not matter if we can strike anywhere at any time. We need to make them afraid. The orders went out across the solar system. Human ships began preparing for offensive operations. Fast attack vessels were loaded with missiles and supplies. Strike teams studied intelligence reports on Council supply routes and infrastructure. Engineers worked around the clock to produce more kinetic mines and autonomous drones for future defensive operations. Captain Daniel Wright received new orders on the bridge of the Valiant. He read them carefully and then called his senior officers together. New mission, he told them. We are taking a squadron of 5 ships into Council space. Our targets are supply convoys and logistics bases. We hit fast, we hit hard, and we disappear before they can respond. Lisa Morgan looked concerned. That is deep behind enemy lines. If we get caught out there, we will have no support. That is why we will not get caught, Daniel replied. The Council fights like they always have, with massive fleets and predictable tactics. We are going to fight like humans have always fought when outnumbered. We adapt, we improvise, and we make them pay for underestimating us. When do we leave? Asked Chris Palmer. 48 hours, Daniel said. Get the ship ready for extended operations. Check every system twice. Where we are going, there will be no margin for error. Across human-controlled space, other captains received similar orders. Small groups of ships began moving out of the solar system on courses that would take them deep into Council territory. They were not enough ships to win a conventional war. But they did not need to win. Conventionally, they just needed to prove that humanity would never stop fighting, and that occupying human space would cost more than any Council member was willing to pay. The second Council fleet arrived at Earth 3 weeks after the first defeat. More than 200 warships from 14 different member species emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. This fleet was 3 times larger than the first expedition, and its commanders had studied every detail of the previous battle. They knew about the kinetic mines now. They knew about human tactics. They came prepared. Fleet Commander Zara of the Kelrath Collective directed the advance from her flagship. She had spent 2 decades fighting pirates and rebels across Council space, and she understood irregular warfare better than most Council officers. The humans had used surprise and deception to win their first engagement, but surprise only worked once. This time the Council fleet approached slowly and carefully, with sensors sweeping constantly for any sign of hidden weapons. Scan results show Earth orbital space is clear, reported her sensor officer. No kinetic mines detected. No hidden weapons platforms. The humans appear to have cleared the debris field. Zara studied the tactical display with suspicion. Too clean. They know we are coming. They know we learned from the first battle. So where are they? Long-range sensors show minimal activity in Earth orbit, another officer reported. Their defensive stations are active, but we are detecting very few ships. Most of their fleet appears to have withdrawn to positions throughout the solar system. That made Zara even more uneasy. The humans should be defending their homeworld with everything they had. Instead, their ships were scattered and their orbital defenses looked almost abandoned. They are planning something. Maintain maximum alertness. All ships activate full defensive screens and keep point defense systems online at all times. The Council fleet moved into position around Earth in a careful blockade formation. They established overlapping fields of fire so every ship could support its neighbors. They deployed sensor drones and automated defense platforms. They did everything correctly according to standard Council military doctrine, and that was exactly the problem. What Fleet Commander Zara did not know was that humanity had stopped trying to defend Earth conventionally. The planet was important symbolically, but strategically it was just one world among many. Humans had colonies on Mars, Europa, Titan, and in 6 other star systems. They had mining bases throughout the asteroid belt and manufacturing facilities on dozens of moons. Earth was home, but it was not the only home anymore. Admiral Kyle Bennett directed human operations from the command center on Mars. The entire civilian government had been quietly relocated there over the past 3 weeks along with critical military command infrastructure. Earth remained defended, but it was no longer the center of human civilization. That distinction now belonged to Mars and the growing colonies in the outer solar system. The Council fleet is in position around Earth, reported Commander Nicole Shaw. They are establishing a siege formation. Intelligence suggests they plan to blockade the planet and force our surrender through economic pressure. Bennett studied the strategic display showing not just Earth but the entire solar system and the nearby star systems where human forces were positioned. They still think this is about defending a single planet. They do not understand that we are not fighting to hold territory. We are fighting to prove that attacking humanity is too expensive to sustain. All strike teams are in position and ready to execute, Shaw continued. We have units near Jupiter in the asteroid belt and in 3 Council-controlled systems, waiting for your orders. Bennett opened a channel to all human military units throughout the solar system and beyond. All ships, this is Admiral Bennett. The Council expects us to defend Earth directly. They expect us to gather our fleet and challenge them to a decisive battle that they will win through superior numbers. We are not going to give them that battle. Instead, we are going to teach them that humanity does not have a single point of failure. Execute Operation Hornet's Nest. Throughout the solar system, human forces began moving, but they were not moving toward Earth. They were moving away from it. Captain Daniel Wright commanded a squadron of 5 fast attack cruisers that had been waiting in the asteroid belt for exactly this moment. The ships were smaller and faster than traditional warships with powerful engines and missile systems designed for hit-and-run combat. They had been hiding among the asteroids with their systems powered down to minimum levels, invisible to Council sensors. "All ships report ready," Lisa Morgan announced from her position at the communications console. "Target is a Council supply convoy heading toward Jupiter to refuel the siege fleet." Daniel studied the tactical plot. 6 large transport ships escorted by 3 Council frigates. The transports carried fuel, ammunition, food, and replacement parts for the fleet blockading Earth. Without regular supplies, the siege fleet would have to withdraw within weeks. "All ships execute attack pattern Alpha. We go in fast, launch missiles, and jump to faster than light before they can respond." The 5 human cruisers accelerated out of the asteroid belt at maximum speed. Their approach was detected immediately, but by the time the Council escorts reacted, the human ships were already launching missiles. Dozens of smart missiles streaked toward the convoy. The Council frigates tried to intercept them, but there were too many missiles coming too fast. Explosions blossomed across the transport ships as missiles found their targets. "All transports hit," Chris Palmer reported from Tactical. "Enemy escorts are moving to engage." "Jump now," Daniel ordered. The 5 human ships activated their faster-than-light drives and vanished. The entire attack had lasted less than 3 minutes. Behind them, the Council convoy was in ruins. 4 transports were destroyed completely. 2 more were crippled and drifting. The escorts had not even gotten a shot off before the human ships disappeared. Similar attacks happened throughout the solar system over the next several hours. A mining station near Jupiter that was supplying the Council fleet suddenly exploded as human commandos detonated charges in its main power core. A group of automated defense drones that the Council thought were dormant space junk activated and attacked a Council resupply ship. 3 human frigates ambushed a Council patrol near Saturn and destroyed it before jumping away. Fleet Commander Zara received the reports with growing frustration. Her fleet was in position around Earth, but the humans were ignoring her and attacking everywhere else. "Get me damage assessments on all attacks." The reports were devastating. In less than 6 hours, the Council had lost 8 supply ships, 1 refueling station, 2 patrol groups, and a forward base. The siege fleet around Earth was intact, but without supplies, it could not sustain operations for more than 2 weeks. "Why are they not defending their homeworld?" demanded one of Zara's subordinate commanders. "We have 200 ships at Earth. They should be throwing everything they have at us." "Because they are smarter than we thought," Zara replied grimly. "They are not trying to win a single decisive battle. They are trying to make it impossible for us to sustain this campaign. Every supply ship we lose, every convoy that gets destroyed, every base that gets sabotaged makes it harder to keep this fleet operational. Then we hunt down their raiders and destroy them," the subordinate suggested. "With what?" Zara asked. "If we split our fleet to chase them, we become vulnerable to counterattack. If we stay concentrated, they can strike our supply lines at will. This is exactly what they want. They are turning our own strength against us." Over the following weeks, the pattern continued. The Council fleet maintained its blockade of Earth, but it was a hollow victory. They controlled the space around one human planet, but humans controlled everything else. Human strike teams ranged across the solar system, attacking any Council asset they could find. Supply convoys started requiring massive escorts, which meant fewer ships for the blockade. Forward bases had to be abandoned because they could not be defended. The Council was slowly bleeding resources and ships while achieving nothing. Captain Daniel Wright and his squadron struck at a Council logistics base in a neighboring star system. They came in fast, destroyed the main storage facilities with missile strikes, and jumped away before the base defenses could respond. "That is our 7th successful raid," Lisa noted as they returned to human-controlled space. "The Council must be running low on supplies by now." "They are," Daniel confirmed. "Intelligence reports show they are pulling ships from other sectors to maintain the Earth blockade. Some Council member species are starting to complain about the costs. We are hitting them where it hurts most. But we are not actually winning, are we?" Chris Palmer asked quietly. "We are making this expensive for them, but we have not driven them out of Earth orbit." Daniel understood the concern. We do not need to drive them out. We just need to make them realize that staying costs more than leaving. Every day they maintain that blockade, they lose ships and supplies to our raids. Every week that passes, their member species get angrier about the expense. Eventually, they will realize this war is unwinnable. On Mars, President Helen Carter reviewed the strategic assessments with Admiral Bennett. How long can we sustain this level of operations? Indefinitely, Bennett replied. We are not losing ships in these raids because we are not staying to fight. We hit fast and run. Meanwhile, the Council has to defend everything everywhere, which is impossible. They are learning what insurgents and guerrilla fighters have known for thousands of years. You cannot defeat an enemy who refuses to fight on your terms. What about Earth itself? Carter asked. The people there are under blockade. They are isolated. Earth has enough supplies to last for months, Bennett assured her, and the blockade is not complete. We are still running ships through with essential supplies. The Council cannot watch every approach vector all the time. Besides, most of Earth's population has already been evacuated to Mars and the outer colonies. Carter looked at the strategic map showing Council forces spread thin, trying to maintain a blockade that was accomplishing nothing. How long before they break? Intelligence suggests we are already seeing crack, Bennett said. 3 Council member species have started questioning the costs. The Varine Empire is facing domestic protests over the military spending. The Kelrath Collective is diverting ships from border patrols, which is causing problems with pirates. If we maintain pressure for another 2 months, the alliance will start falling apart. On her flagship orbiting Earth, Fleet Commander Zara came to the same conclusion. She sent a message to the Council leadership through quantum communication. We cannot sustain this operation. The humans have refused to defend their homeworld in any conventional sense. Instead, they have turned the entire solar system into a battlefield where they hold every advantage. Our supply lines are under constant attack. Our losses are mounting. Our member species are losing patience with the costs. I recommend we withdraw and reconsider our strategy. The Council's response was predictable. Hold position. Reinforcements were coming. Victory was near, but Zara knew better. She had fought enough campaigns to recognize when a military operation had become politically unsustainable. The Council might claim victory was near, but the reality was they were slowly losing a war of attrition against an enemy that refused to fight fair. 6 months into the war in the Galactic Council was fracturing. The Sorth Commonwealth had withdrawn its ships completely after losing 2 cruisers to human raids. The Vertani Republic pulled back half its fleet, citing budget concerns. The Drexen Confederation announced it would no longer participate in offensive operations. What had started as a unified show of force against a young species had become a costly mess that was draining resources and political capital from every member species involved. President Helen Carter sat in the command center on Mars reviewing the latest intelligence reports. The facility had been expanded significantly over the past months and now served as the true capital of human space. Around her sat the military and political leaders who had guided humanity through its first interstellar war. Latest casualty numbers, Admiral Kyle Bennett said, displaying the data on holographic screens. We have lost 42 ships over the past 6 months, mostly light cruisers and frigates engaged in raiding operations. Council losses exceed 400 vessels across all classes. Their supply situation is critical and getting worse. Secretary of Defense Paul Henderson added his analysis. Our intelligence sources inside Council space report growing dissent. The Varine Empire is facing massive protests on their homeworld. Citizens are demanding to know why they are spending so much money on a war that seems to have no end. The Kelrath Collective has diverted so many ships to the Earth blockade that pirates are operating freely in their territory. Several Council members are privately discussing withdrawal. Carter listened carefully, but her expression remained troubled. And our own casualties? 1,900 military personnel killed in action, Bennett said quietly. Another 3,000 wounded. We also lost 2 colony worlds when the Council retaliated with strikes on our outer settlements. The colonies on Kepler 4 and Ross 128 were bombarded from orbit. Total civilian casualties from those attacks were approximately 15,000. The room fell silent. Every human death weighed on their decisions. Carter thought about the families who had lost loved ones, the children who would grow up without parents, the communities that had been destroyed. But she also thought about what surrender would have meant. A future where humanity lived under alien control, where human children grew up as subjects rather than free citizens. We are hurting them worse than they are hurting us, Carter observed, but we are still bleeding. I need realistic assessments of how long we can sustain this level of operations. Commander Nicole Shaw spoke up from her position at the intelligence station. Madam President, I think we have been looking at this situation incorrectly. We do not need to destroy the Council military completely. We need to destroy their political will to continue fighting. She pulled up a strategic map showing Council space. The member species are not truly united. They joined this war because they feared human expansion, but they are not actually threatened by us. Most of them are located hundreds of light years from human space. What if we stopped fighting defensively and started targeting their economic infrastructure directly? You mean attack their civilian economies? Henderson asked with concern. That would be a significant escalation. It could turn this into a war of extermination if they decide we are too dangerous to exist. They already tried to exterminate us, Shaw pointed out. They came to Earth with a fleet and demanded our surrender under threat of bombardment. They destroyed 2 of our colonies when we refused. We have already crossed into total war territory. Now we need to make sure they understand that continuing this war will cost them everything. Admiral Bennett considered the strategy carefully. What exactly are you proposing? Shaw expanded the map to show major trade routes and economic centers throughout Council space. We stop targeting just their military supply lines. We start hitting their commercial shipping, their trading stations, their manufacturing facilities. We make it impossible for Council economies to function normally. We do not kill civilians, but we destroy their ability to make money and maintain their standard of living. Economic warfare, Carter said thoughtfully. Make the civilian populations demand peace because continuing the war is destroying their prosperity. Exactly, Shaw confirmed. Right now, the war is distant for most Council citizens. Their ships are getting destroyed at Earth, but that does not affect daily life on their homeworlds. If we bring the economic cost home to every citizen, the pressure on Council governments will become unbearable. Carter stood and walked to the strategic display. She studied the marked locations of Council economic infrastructure. Trading hubs, manufacturing centers, shipping routes, resource extraction facilities, all the things that made modern civilization possible. If we do this, we are committing to total war. There will be no going back. Madam President, they committed to total war when they assembled a fleet to force our surrender, Bennett said. We have been fighting defensively and it has worked well, but eventually they will adapt to our tactics or simply wear us down through attrition. If we want to end this war on our terms, we need to make it so painful that they beg for peace. The decision was made. Humanity's war strategy shifted from defensive raiding to strategic economic warfare. New orders went out to every human ship and strike team across known space. The targets were no longer just military convoys and supply bases. Now they included anything that contributed to Council economic power. Captain Daniel Wright led a task force of 7 ships deep into Varine space. Their target was a major trading station that served as a hub for commercial shipping across 3 sectors. The station itself was civilian, home to 50,000 alien workers and traders. Daniel had no intention of harming any of them, but he was going to make sure the station could not function. Approach vector confirmed, Lisa Morgan reported. Station defenses are minimal. 2 small patrol ships and some automated weapons platforms. Nothing that can stop us. Good, Daniel replied. All ships move into attack positions. Target the docking facilities, the main computer cores, and the power generation systems. I want that station crippled, but I do not want any civilian casualties. The human ship struck with precision. Missiles destroyed the station's docking arms, leaving dozens of ships stranded without the ability to refuel or resupply. A computer virus uploaded by human hackers shut down the main trading systems, wiping out transaction records and making it impossible to coordinate commerce. Careful strikes disabled the main power generators without breaching the habitat sections where civilians lived. All targets hit, Chris Palmer confirmed. Station is intact but completely non-functional. It will take them months to repair the damage. Jump to the next target, Daniel ordered. Similar attacks happened throughout Council space over the following weeks. A Kelrath manufacturing station lost its primary production facilities to precise missile strikes. A major shipping route became completely unusable after human forces deployed thousands of navigation hazard beacons that forced all traffic into lengthy detours. A Sorth resource extraction facility found all its equipment sabotaged by human commandos, who infiltrated the base and destroyed critical systems. The message was clear and brutal. This war cost you money. It cost you stability. It costs you prosperity. Every day it continues. You get poorer while we adapt and survive. The impact on council economies was immediate and devastating. Stock markets crashed as investors realized the humans could strike anywhere at any time. Insurance companies refused to cover ships traveling through areas where human raiders operated. Trade routes that had been used for centuries were abandoned because the risk was too high. Manufacturing slowed as facilities shut down due to security concerns. The economic disruption rippled through every aspect of council civilization. Within 2 months, riots broke out on 3 council homeworlds. Citizens demanded to know why their governments were spending enormous sums on a war that was destroying their economy. Why were they fighting humans who posed no real threat to their actual territory? Why were their leaders so obsessed with controlling a species hundreds of light years away? The political pressure became unbearable. The Varine Empire recalled its remaining ships and announced it would no longer participate in council military operations. The Kelrath Collective signed a separate peace treaty with humanity, acknowledging human sovereignty in exchange for an end to raids on Kelrath territory. 4 smaller council members simply withdrew without explanation. Fleet Commander Zara sent her final report to council leadership from her flagship still orbiting Earth. We have lost this war, not because the humans defeated us militarily, but because they made victory more expensive than any rational government is willing to pay. We underestimated them completely. We thought they were just another young species that could be intimidated into submission. We forgot to ask why they survived and thrived in one of the most dangerous regions of the galaxy. They are survivors, they are fighters, and they have turned our own strengths into weaknesses. We cannot defeat them without destroying ourselves in the process. Zara requested permission to withdraw and was denied. Council leadership insisted the blockade must be maintained to save political face. But Zara knew the truth. The war was already lost. It was just a matter of time before the Council formally acknowledged defeat. On Mars, President Carter reviewed the intelligence reports showing the collapse of Council unity. How long before they asked for peace terms? Days, not weeks, Admiral Bennett predicted. Their alliance is broken. Their economies are in crisis. Their civilian populations are demanding an end to the war. The only question is whether they will negotiate or simply withdraw in defeat. Prepare our terms, Carter ordered. When they come asking for peace, I want them to understand that humanity will never again tolerate threats to our sovereignty. This war ends on our terms or it does not end at all. The peace conference was held on a neutral station in unclaimed space, far from both Earth and Council territories. The station had been built centuries ago as a meeting place for species that wanted to negotiate without the pressure of being in anyone's home territory. Now it hosted what would become one of the most important diplomatic meetings in galactic history. The Galactic Council sent representatives from 7 member species: the Varine, Kelrath, Sorth, and 4 smaller civilizations that still remained loosely aligned with the Council cause. They arrived expecting negotiations, compromises, and long discussions about how to end the war while saving face for all parties involved. That was how civilized species conducted diplomacy, according to thousands of years of galactic tradition. Humanity sent President Helen Carter, Admiral Kyle Bennett, and a small security detail of 12 Marines. They arrived on a single warship and made no pretense about their intentions. This was not a negotiation. This was humanity dictating the terms of peace. The Council representatives waited in the main conference room. It was a large circular chamber with viewing ports showing the stars beyond. The room had been designed to make all participants feel equal, with seating arranged so no one had a position of prominence. Councillor Sev of the Kelrath Collective served as the lead diplomatic representative for what remained of the Council alliance. President Carter entered the room and walked directly to the center. She did not sit. She did not engage in the traditional diplomatic pleasantries. She simply placed a datapad on the central table and began speaking. The Galactic Council initiated hostilities against humanity by assembling a military fleet at Earth and delivering an ultimatum designed to cripple our civilization permanently. You demanded we surrender our military capability, halt our expansion, and submit to your oversight. We refused. You attacked. We defended ourselves. For 6 months we have demonstrated that any attempt to subjugate humanity will cost far more than any potential benefit. Now you are here because your alliance is broken. Your economies are in crisis, and your populations demand an end to this war. Counselor Sev made a gesture of diplomatic courtesy. President Carter, we acknowledge that this conflict has been costly for all parties involved. We are here to negotiate a mutual peace that respects the interests of both humanity and the Council member species. Surely we can find a compromise that allows both sides to claim success. Carter's expression did not change. You misunderstand the situation, Counselor. We are not here to negotiate. We are here to inform you of the terms under which humanity will cease hostilities. You will accept these terms, or we will continue economic warfare until your civilizations collapse completely. She activated the datapad, and holographic text appeared above the table. The Galactic Council will withdraw all military forces from human space immediately and permanently. You will formally recognize human sovereignty over all currently occupied systems and acknowledge our right to expand into unclaimed space without Council interference. You will pay reparations for the 2 colony worlds you destroyed. The total amount will be calculated based on reconstruction costs, lost economic productivity, and compensation for the families of the 15,000 civilians you killed in those attacks. The Council representatives began speaking over each other in shock and outrage. Counselor Sev raised his voice above the others. These terms are outrageous. You are demanding we treat you as victors when this war has cost both sides dearly. You cannot seriously expect us to pay reparations and surrender our right to oversee expansion in this region of space. Admiral Bennett stepped forward. Counselor, let me clarify something. We are not asking you to treat us as victors. We are informing you that we are victors. You came to our home with threats and warships. We responded by destroying a third of your fleet, crippling your supply lines, and bringing economic warfare to your doorstep. Your alliance has collapsed. 3 of your member species have already withdrawn. 2 more are negotiating separate peace treaties with us. You have lost this war and you know it. A representative from the Sorth Commonwealth spoke up angrily. This is not how civilized species conduct diplomacy. There must be mutual respect, compromise, and consideration for the dignity of all parties. Carter turned to face the Sorth representative directly. You defined the rules of engagement well, and you assembled a war fleet at Earth. You chose threats and violence over diplomacy. We simply proved better at violence than you anticipated. Now you want to return to civilized diplomacy because you are losing. That option ended when you destroyed our colonies and killed our civilians. She walked slowly around the table, making eye contact with each council representative. Let me be absolutely clear about something. Humanity does not bargain when our survival is at stake. We do not make compromises with species that threaten our existence. We do not accept oversight from governments that tried to force our surrender. You made a calculation 6 months ago that humanity could be intimidated into submission. You were wrong. Now you will accept the consequences of that mistake. Counselor Sev stood from his seat. And if we refuse these terms, what then? Then we continue economic warfare, Carter replied simply. We have already demonstrated our capability. Your trading stations, your manufacturing facilities, your commercial shipping routes are all vulnerable. We can strike anywhere at any time. Your economies are already in crisis. How long do you think your governments will survive if we make trade impossible and prosperity a distant memory? How long before your own citizens overthrow you for starting an unwinnable war? The council representatives conferred privately among themselves for over an hour. Their holographic avatars flickered as they communicated with their home governments. When they returned, Counselor Sev spoke with barely concealed resentment. The council member species find these terms extremely harsh, but we acknowledge that continued conflict serves no one's interests. We will accept withdrawal of all military forces from human space in recognition of human sovereignty over currently occupied systems. However, the reparations demand is excessive and politically impossible for our governments to accept. The reparations are not negotiable, Admiral Bennett stated flatly. You killed 15,000 human civilians in deliberate attacks on colony worlds. Those deaths must be acknowledged and compensated. If your governments cannot accept that, then we will continue operations until they can. Another round of private consultations followed. Finally, the council representatives returned with defeated expressions. We will agree to reparations, but the amount and payment schedule must be negotiated. We cannot simply hand over the enormous sum you are demanding. The amount is calculated based on actual costs and losses, Carter said. We will allow payment over a 10-year period, but the total will not be reduced. You wanted to punish humanity for expanding too quickly. Instead, you will pay for the damage you caused. The negotiations continued for 2 more days, but the outcome was never in doubt. The Council had lost too much to continue fighting, and humanity refused to compromise on any significant point. The final treaty included every major demand Carter had presented in her opening statement. The signing ceremony was brief and formal. Councillor Sev affixed his authorization to the treaty document with visible reluctance. Humanity has made enemies today, President Carter. There are many species in the galaxy that will not view your methods favorably. You have shown that you are willing to use extreme measures to achieve your goals. Carter met his gaze steadily. Counselor, let me be completely clear about something. The Galactic Council came to Earth believing we would surrender to avoid conflict. You have now learned that humanity does not bargain away our survival. We do not compromise when our existence is threatened. We do not surrender to threats. If other species want to test that lesson, they are welcome to try. We will be ready. She gestured to the holographic display showing human-controlled space. You came to limit our expansion because you feared what humanity might become. Your actions have ensured that we will become exactly what you feared, a strong, independent, and utterly ruthless civilization when threatened. You have taught us that the galaxy respects only strength, and that peaceful coexistence requires the ability to defend ourselves against any threat. We will not forget that lesson. The Council representatives departed without further comment. Their ships left the neutral station and returned to their home territories carrying news of a humiliating defeat. Captain Daniel Wright watched the last Council vessel jump to faster than light speed from the bridge of the Valiant. Commander Lisa Morgan stood beside him at the viewport. Do you think they will honor the treaty? Lisa asked. For at least a generation, Daniel replied. They need decades to rebuild their fleets and economies. By the time they are strong enough to threaten us again, we will be even stronger, and they will remember what happened the last time they tried to push humanity around. And if they come back anyway, Daniel smiled without humor, then we will teach them the lesson again. Humanity did not survive everything we survived by being easy to defeat. The Council thought we were just another young species they could intimidate. They learned the hard way that we are survivors, fighters, and we never stop adapting. On Mars, President Carter addressed humanity through a system-wide broadcast. Her holographic image appeared in every home, station, and colony throughout human space. Today marks the end of the Council War. We did not seek this conflict, but we did not shrink from it. The Galactic Council came to our home with demands that we surrender our freedom and our future. We refused. They attacked. We fought back. For 6 months we proved that humanity cannot be intimidated, cannot be conquered, and will not surrender our sovereignty to any power, no matter how large or how old. She paused and her expression became serious. This victory came at a cost. We lost 1,900 military personnel and 15,000 civilians. Every one of those deaths weighs on us, and we honor their sacrifice. They died defending human freedom and ensuring that our children would grow up as free citizens, rather than subjects of alien powers. The hologram showed images of human colonies, ships and stations across known space. To the young people of humanity, I say this. You are inheriting a galaxy that knows we cannot be pushed around. Our species proved that we have the strength and will to defend ourselves against any threat. But strength brings responsibility. We must never become the bullies that the Council tried to be. We must remember that we fought for freedom, not conquest. We must build a future where humanity is respected, not because we are feared, but because we earned that respect through our actions. Carter's image returned to center view. To any species that might consider threatening humanity in the future, I leave a simple message. We do not seek conflict, but we will not avoid it when our survival is at stake. We do not make threats, but we keep our promises. We do not negotiate with those who try to subjugate us. We defeat them. The Galactic Council learned this lesson. We hope others will learn from their example. The broadcast ended. Across human space, people celebrated their survival and their victory. But in military academies and strategic planning centers, the real work continued. The galaxy was vast and dangerous. Humanity had won its first interstellar war, but it would not be the last challenge they faced. The Galactic Council had pushed too far and learned that humanity refuses to bargain when threatened. That lesson would echo across the galaxy for generations to come.